very much. Let me first recognize our dear guest speakers, Honorable Donville Innes, the Minister in the Government of Barbados, Honorable Gaston Brown, the Leader of the Opposition and Leader of the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party, Honorable Sam Martin, the Member of Parliament for this constituency, colleague ministers and executive members of the Dominica Labour Party, excellencies of the diplomatic and consular corps, and I want in a special way to recognize the Excellency Ambassador of Cuba to Dominica, the homeland of the revolutionaries Fidel and Raul, a country that has been dear friends of Dominica and Dominicans for several decades. And we join hands and voices in calling for the freedom of the 5 Cuban heroes who are jailed in US and prisons. Excellency of the People's Republic of China, a true friend of Dominica, a true friend of the people of Dominica, and a true friend of the government of Dominica. And we continue, rest assured, Ambassador, of our support for the One China policy and for the peaceful reunification of the whole of China. Excellency of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, the homeland of our fallen comrade Hugo Chavez, a true friend, a brother, a father of Dominica, Hugo Chavez. Ambassador, our love and affection always to you and the people and government of Venezuela. I want to recognize also in a special way the Ambassador of the Federal Republic of Brazil, of the great socialist nation of Brazil, the home of Lula and Dilma Rousseff, the President of the Federal Republic of Brazil. I want to recognize all of you, my dear family, my dear friends, laborites, supporters of labor, Dominicans. I want to recognize you because it is you who have us here standing and speaking on your behalf as laborites. I want to thank you very much. I want to recognize the men of labor, the women of labor, and the children and the young people, the young laborites. I want to recognize you in a special way. Thank you very much, Comrade Chairman, and good afternoon to the family of the Dominica Labour Party. Good afternoon to the thousands who have assembled in living color here in the wonderful community of Point Michel. Good afternoon to the tens of thousands at home in Dominica, viewing the live telecast of this event on www.dominicalabourparty.com, www.ourparty.com, and www.dominica2013.com. And all those listening via the internet on the various radio stations transmitting this live broadcast. Let me also extend very special greetings to our Dominican brothers and sisters in the diaspora, in New York, in New Jersey, in Boston, in Connecticut, in Miami, Texas, Canada, United Kingdom, Morocco, China, Venezuela, US and British Virgin Islands, St. Martin, Anguilla, Antigua, Trinidad and Tobago, Martinique and Guadeloupe, El Salvador, and of course Jamaica, wherever you are listening to this broadcast. This is the day that the Lord has made, and let us rejoice in it. This is the day that the Lord has made, And let us rejoice in it, ladies and gentlemen. Comrades and friends, I speak to you today as political leader of the Dominican Labour Party. I speak to you today as a duly elected leader of the government of this country. Comrade Ambrose George earlier outlined the legislative program and other accomplishments of your party in government over the past 4 years. Comrade Reginald Osprey dealt with the hard politics as obtained on the ground in Dominica today. And what an awesome job they both did this afternoon. Our distinguished visiting speakers, Honorable Dunville Innes of the Democratic Labour Party, and Honorable Gaston Brown, leader of the opposition of Antigua and Barbuda, brought regional perspectives to bear on social, political, and economic occurrences at home here in Dominica, the region, and the world. I take this opportunity to formally thank them for attending and bringing to us these great words of inspiration. I think we have had some brilliant presentations this afternoon, and I'm sure you all agree with me. There is no greater feeling than the love and fellowship of a Labour Party family get-together in the Caribbean. I thank our General Secretary, our very hard-working General Secretary Ed Regis, and all others who were instrumental in making this conference the resounding success that is shaping up to becoming. Comrades and friends, I have chosen this afternoon to put all which you have heard into context. In this Dominican Labour Party, we have always guided ourselves and been guided by the adage that true power resides with the people. The late Prime Minister Rosie Douglas of blessed memory instilled this in our minds and in our consciousness. Politicians may suggest and even initiate, but power is never shifted from the preserve of the masses of Dominica, you, the people of Dominica. I therefore declare from the outset this afternoon that the conversation we have had in this country over the past week about the nomination and soon-to-be election of a head of state was a healthy and much-needed exercise. The outcome has reinforced and strengthened in my mind the joy and privilege of being Dominican. I say again, it was one of my proudest moments. Here it was, as Prime Minister of this country, I made a nomination, having gained the support of my cabinet for a particular individual to be elected president of our fair land. I followed the procedures as outlined in the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Dominica, and immediately the national conversation began. I did not sense enmity or malice. All who called, texted, sent messages, blogged, and contributed to radio debates to express their opinions acted well within their civic and constitutional right. There was support for our nomination, and there was opposition to our nomination. As Prime Minister of this country, I listened, I evaluated, and I considered. I heard all the arguments that were advanced, and I told myself that no matter what, the best interests of Dominica had to be pursued and promoted over all other considerations. I should point out here that the first nominee of the government, the current Speaker of the Dominican Parliament, Mrs. Alec Boyd Knights, was out of state on official parliamentary business when all this was unfolding. She too, I am sure, monitored the weight of public opinion. Notwithstanding the vicious attacks leveled at her, I am 100% certain that her primary focus and consideration was always for the best interests of Dominica. When all was said and done, in her own deliberate judgment, she magnanimously decided to decline the nomination for President of the Commonwealth of Dominica. Mrs. Alec Budge-Knight is a true Dominican patriot. I salute her this evening, and I invite the family of the Dominican Labour Party assembled here in Port Michel to do likewise. I go further, comrades and friends, to share with you now the full content of the letter I received from Mrs. Alec Budge-Knight. And it reads, Dear Prime Minister, read my nomination for President. I write further to my communication with you over the past few days. As I obtained feedback from the talk shows, peruse the comments on news blogs and social media on the internet, I am becoming more and more concerned about the safety of my family. I am also disturbed over the fact that my name is being used as the reason to create disharmony and unrest in my beloved country, a situation which I am hoping this step diffuses. It is therefore a profound regret that I must ask that you withdraw my nomination to the high office of President of the Commonwealth of Dominica. I am confident that you will find someone more appealing to the opposing forces so that peace can reign during such an important transition in the history of Dominica. In all humility, I wish to thank you and your cabinet for the great honor bestowed on me by considering me worthy of holding such high office. But for the prevailing circumstances, I would have been honored and happy to serve this country. May God continue to bless Dominica and its people. In peace, love, and prosperity, I am your humble servant, Alex Budge-Knight, Speaker of the House of Assembly. Again, I say that hers was a selfless act and consideration of a true Dominican patriot. So this afternoon, even though the issue of the election of a head of state has not formally been settled, I am sure all would agree that democracy, maturity, and patriotism converge on this issue, and Dominica is today a much richer and blessed country for it all. Comrades, I listened very carefully to all that was said. I listened to the radio stations. I was particularly intrigued by the arguments which were advanced on Q95 concerning the standards that Dominicans should set for anyone aspiring to become president of this country. What was clear about the discussion last week was that Dominica had a very clear concept about the qualities, qualifications, and characteristics they wanted in a head of state. As a nation, we all stood up and set out clearly our concept of the requirements for the largely ceremonial post of president. It is worthwhile reiterating here, comrades and friends, that the president is a head of state and not the democratically elected leader of the country. He or she does not craft laws and regulations governing the country. He or she does not singularly represent the country at the podium of the United Nations, in the White House in Washington, or 10 Downing Street in London. And when and if he does with the consent and approval of the government. The president, after due consideration, affixes his or her signature to laws approved by the parliament. This notwithstanding, it is healthy that the entire country saw it necessary to get involved in the discussion of the nomination of a president. We each created for ourselves and on behalf of our beloved country, a mirror image of our concept of the desirable qualities and qualifications of a president. Again, I thank all of you, for your contributions, and it was my honor and duty as leader to be guided on this matter by the weight of public opinion. The matter of the election of a new president of Dominica shall be considered and determined in the days ahead. By this time next month, it would have been resolved and the vast majority of Dominicans would have moved on. So, ladies and gentlemen, with the issue of the election of a president technically behind us, fellow defenders of the Constitution and the rule of law in Dominica, let us turn our attention now to the matter of nomination and soon-to-be election of a Prime Minister of Dominica. As incumbent Prime Minister, I determine the timing of election. You, the patriots of Dominica, must start from now to discuss and arrive at the criteria for nomination and selection of a Prime Minister. Let us, sons and daughters of all Dominica, pause for a moment and reflect first on the office we are called upon to fill. I am no lawyer, I am no constitutional expert, but I consider it very important, indeed critical, that this national audience, comprising Labour Party supporters assembled here in Point Michel, and thousands of apolitical persons following this broadcast live on video and audio streams, to be sensitized to the very serious salutary functions and responsibilities of a Prime Minister. Many amongst us were very vociferous and emotional about wanting to do what was right for and by Dominica. I admired the passion of the new political leader of the United Workers' Party on this issue. He even saw the need to march. He and others insisted that foremost in our consideration should be the message that we as a nation should send abroad about the caliber of individual we wanted as head of state. It was suggested that the entire world was watching Dominica and would be eager to serve and discover the caliber, observe and discover the caliber and depth of individual we elected. Not as head of the government, an effective leader of the country, but as the ceremonial head of state. Those arguments were strong. Those arguments were powerful. Those arguments were persuasive. The leadership of the Dominica Labour Party, always committed to peace, public order, and the rule of law, listened, considered, heeded, and acted. In the end, those arguments, together with a single act of magnanimity on the part of an individual, led to a revision of the nominee for the position of president. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to again pause for a while and lend me your ear. As I said earlier, it is very important for us to reflect on the key functions and responsibilities of the office of Prime Minister that we as citizens of this country shall shortly be seeking to elect someone to fill. The Prime Minister selects the Cabinet of Ministers. He chairs the Cabinet of Ministers. He advises and guides the Cabinet of Ministers. Even though there are several ministers and ministries, the Prime Minister has ultimate responsibility for the administration and output of each portfolio. On many occasions, the Prime Minister has to act as mediator and final arbiter. He must have a working knowledge of everything going on in every single department of governmental activity and operation. Additionally, ladies and gentlemen, the Prime Minister is chief steward of the country. He is the voice and face of the country in meaningful international forums. He advises on the appointment of every major post in the country. He is part of the appointment process of the Chief Justice of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, the Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, the Director General of the OECS, and the Secretary General of CARICOM, among other regional and international organizations. If there are any industrial disputes, when all else fails, it is to the Prime Minister that the matter is ultimately referred for mediation and resolution. So the selection and election of a Prime Minister of a country is very serious business, ladies and gentlemen. To perform those functions efficiently, a Prime Minister should be knowledgeable, competent, trained, skilled, amenable to change, and to embracing new and different ideas. That person must be personable, some say charismatic, inspiring, and very importantly, he or she must be a uniting force in the country. Even though there will be partisan politics, there must be times when the Prime Minister must be able to come to the country, appeal to and receive the collective support and well wishes of the people he leads. Comrades and friends, that's my general take on the role, responsibilities, qualities, and qualifications of a Prime Minister. But I do not wish to ram anything down your throats, fellow Dominicans. I want you to do your own thinking and analysis. You did it last week for the nomination of President, and I want you to do it henceforth for the nomination and election of the Prime Minister of Dominica. As of tomorrow, I want to invite all Dominicans, residents at home and abroad, to join the conversation that has just been started. Give us your take on the requirements for leading Dominica in the second decade of the 21st century. Last week, every available medium and other outlet were utilized by those wanting to share the perspective on the nomination of a ceremonial head of state. I want now and during the coming months for the country to have a discussion on its expectations of a Prime Minister, a head of government, a head of the country, the face and standard bearer of Dominica in regional and international fora. My position on this matter, comrades and friends, is crystal clear. Several speakers before me alluded to the prognosis for the recovery or lack thereof of economies in the region and around the world. They highlighted the stark reality of small, independent, developing states like Dominica, no longer having the proverbial godfather to whom they could turn in time of difficulty. There is no end in sight. There is no end in sight to the malaise of global economic stagnation. A recession or economic decline that should have ended years ago is still very much in existence, and many predict that the conditions will get worse before they get better. Traditional friends and allies are either unable or unwilling to extend generous hand of direct assistance to aid small island states. Most of these countries are taxed to the limit, and Dominica is no exception. There is realistically nothing more we can ask taxpayers in this country, either individual or corporate. Administering the affairs of state in this environment is very serious and difficult business. The terrain is treacherous to navigate. It is a type of economic weather that even Formula One drivers would find challenging. It's a type of decision-making that experienced, long-serving leaders have to ruminate long and hard upon. Managing the affairs of state in this environment calls for a combination of vision, wisdom, knowledge, training, experience, skill, persuasion, and sheer luck. You need a majority, if not all, of the foregoing qualities to have a mere chance of success. This is certainly not a terrain for rookies. The helm of government in these times is certainly no place for novice. There is no room for trial and error in this very important and serious business. Comrades, I addressed this conference last year and I spoke, some said sternly, to my ministers and parliaments. I set out clearly what I expected of each of them in these very challenging times. I made clear that I would be very discerning in my support for persons wanting to offer themselves as candidates in the next general elections. I take my responsibility as leader of this party very seriously. And I have made it clear that I will be very deliberate in supporting individuals to be renominated or nominated for the first time as candidates for election on the Labour Party ticket. Now is not the time or place to go into details, but I can already tell you that there will be several new faces included in the lineup of candidates that will be put forward by this Dominican Labour Party in the next general elections. I have devoted considerable time over the past few months to this review process. The opposition is correct. We commissioned the scientific poll to help inform us of the views of voters on this topic. I do not just want to impose a candidate on you. I want to know in advance how you feel about that individual. That is how we function in the Dominican Labour Party. Immediately upon the death of the late Prime Minister Pierre Charles of blessed memory, the name Roosevelt Skerrit was not pulled out from a hat. It was advanced and it was canvassed among hundreds across this country before my colleagues formally said to me, Skerrit, you are the man for the job. So what happened with the opposition could never have happened here in the Dominican Labour Party. And that is what sets us apart from all others. The only thing more ridiculous than Lennox Linton leading a major political party in Dominica is Michael Astaphan leading 1-2. Fortunate for us, Michael Astaphan is the only active member of the party he leads. The Dominican Labour Party will, in the next general elections campaign, present a slate of candidates led by a leader in whom the entire party and the country is well pleased. This Labour Party will not nominate anyone to go up for office that it does not believe is up to the task of performing the function required of him or her. This Labour Party will definitely not nominate a candidate for the office of Prime Minister who it does not believe and indeed knows very well is not up to the task of leading Dominica at this time. Any candidate put forward by the Dominican Labour Party for the office of Prime Minister shall be competent, experienced, trained, qualified and visionary. With a demonstrated capacity to inspire people, unite this country on national issues, and motivate us all to do what is right, including making sacrifices when necessary in the interest of Dominica. So, comrades and friends, the candidate for Prime Minister put forward by the Dominica Labour Party must also be known and respected regionally and internationally. He or she must be held in high esteem by colleague prime ministers and not as an errand boy for hire. Dominica has come too far and has labored too long for us to return to the state of being the poorer, weaker sibling in the emerging global family. This Dominica Labour Party has taken the name of Dominica out of the mouths of those who looked down upon us as Columbus's only remaining familiar territory. We are now an equal player in all regional and international forums. And I declare as a proud Dominican this afternoon, we now turn back. We now turn back. Forward ever, backward never. We in this great political party must and will do everything in our power to ensure that the candidate for leadership of this country adds and improves the stature of Dominica and does not diminish it in any way. That, comrade and friends, is a solemn pledge I make to the voters of Dominica as we move towards the next general elections. As I said earlier, I want the conversation on the election of a leader of Dominica to begin. You have just heard the standard that will be set for office holders on the ticket of the Dominica Labour Party. As it stands now, Michael Astafant might be the only person left standing on the ticket of the once mighty Freedom Party. So we turn our attention now to the United Workers' Party, as I want for that party to join this very important conversation. The United Workers' Party was the first on record to comment on the nomination of a candidate for president. I want it now to join in the real conversation on the requirements for the nomination of a candidate for prime minister. I have set forth clearly what the Dominica Labour Party's eligibility requirements shall be. I call now on the United Workers' Party to do likewise. I call on other key opinion shapers in the country to do the same. I want to hear from the business community. I want to hear from civil society. I want to hear from the church. I want to hear from the legal profession. And I want to hear especially from Sir Brian Alleyne, from the various talk show hosts, and from the dozens who regularly call in on the radio programs on what, in your view, are the eligibility requirements for the post of Prime Minister in modern-day Dominica. Now that the debate on the nomination of a president is behind us, let's turn our attention to the election of a Prime Minister in a not-too-distant future. Comrades and friends, fellow Dominicans, one thing I will make clear this afternoon is that as leader of the Dominica Labour Party, I will not sit silent and allow any Europeans to recolonize Dominica. In the lead up to the last general elections, we spoke from this platform about a group of individuals that had set aside large sums of money to fund and finance the campaign of the United Workers' Party. This group, very well known to Mr. Edison James, has funded campaigns in several other islands of the Caribbean in exchange for the right to sell passports en masse to wealthy business persons and families around the world. Comrade Ralph Gonzalez of St. Vincent and the Grenadines has spoken out about the disrespectful and contemptuous behavior of this group in that country. To a lesser extent, Dr. Kenny Anthony of St. Lucia has also had to comment on the disreputable behavior in the lead up to the last elections in St. Lucia. There is also another sister Caribbean country known very well to Lennox Clinton, where they have taken a foothold, and residents there do not like it at all. Comrades and friends, you may be asking the follow-up question, but what has all of this to do with Dominica and the election of a prime minister in the months ahead? The short answer to your question is everything, every single thing. This group likes to control prime ministers. They like to work around the bureaucracy. They like to work around the cabinet of ministers. They like to work around the parliament of the country. They have no time or respect for any of the institutions of the country. In simple terms, they are bad for the Caribbean. Their philosophy is that if they can get a prime minister that they can control and who they can direct to their biddings, all would be well. They pumped money into the last general elections in Dominica, but according to their own confidential reports, the prime minister, and I guess they were talking about Roosevelt Skerrit, called the elections too early, and they did not have time to impact the country as they would have wished. Do you remember the blue question marks that crept up all across Dominica in the last election? That was the beginning of a campaign crafted by these individuals and executed by another European colonizing group called SCL. They had a plan for the voters of Dominica. They had a barrage of laser equipment and pyrotechnics loaded on the docks of Great Britain, headed for Dominica, but the Prime Minister called elections early and caught them with their pants down. Ron Green, truth be told, was not as warm and receptive to them as they would have liked. So even though he carried the title of leader, they continued to deal with Edison James. My information is that the assurance was given that Edison James would have been assigned the ministries that are relevant to the processing of their business ventures. That election was lost, and so was the investment in the campaign. Now I am told that with having hinted a few months ago of early elections, Edison James contacted this group of European colonizers and once again solicited funding for his campaign. But this time around, the fellas were ready for Edison. They told Edison the intelligence on the ground in Dominica showed clearly that the United Workers' Party could not win with him, Edison, as leader. They said, Edison boy, we like you, we want to help you, but the party can't win with you. They said that for them to pump the requested $3 million United States into the United Workers' Party campaign, two fundamental decisions would have to be taken. First, Edison James would have to step down as leader. David suggested he could negotiate the post of president of Dominica with his successor. But for them to pump serious money into the campaign, Edison would have to give up the leadership to a younger and more vibrant person. The second condition was that this group of European colonizers, well, are you saying Henley and Partners? Are you saying Henley and Partners? Sorry, as I was saying, ladies and gentlemen, the second condition imposed by this group of European colonizers was that they must have a say in the election of a new leader, because as I said before, last time Ron Green was not as compliant as they would have wished for him to be. So these were the conditions set forth to the United Workers' Party for European funding of the next general elections campaign. Edison and his key advisors did not like this proposition, so they agreed to effect Plan B. They got on a flight, and where did you think they flew to? Where do you think they flew to, ladies and gentlemen? St. Kitts and Nevis. These bastards got on a plane, ladies and gentlemen, and went to St. Kitts, not initially to meet with the representative of the colonizing company now living on the island of Nevis, but to the Taiwan embassy on St. Kitts. They went and poured their hats out to the Taiwanese, providing all sorts of fake documentation about how a poll showed them winning the next elections in Dominica. A few days later, the Taiwanese came back to them with the sad news that they really were not minded to keep up this dollar diplomacy campaigning. The Taiwanese said current relations between China and Taiwan were not as strained as before, and they were not minded to invest $3 million in Dominican election campaign, which the intelligence suggested was difficult for the Workers' Party to win. Now, remember, last election, there was the scare of the St. Lucia Labour Party winning in St. Lucia and re-establishing relations with China. So the Taiwanese had enormous interest in the Dominica elections, as a win in Dominica and a loss in St. Lucia could have evened things out. As you know, St. Lucia Labour Party won the elections and has maintained relations with Taiwan. So Dominica is not as strategically important now for Taiwan as it was 4 years ago. But the bottom line is, Edison and his band of modern-day pirates came away from the meeting in St. Kitts empty-handed. Fearful of imminent elections and being flat broke, they turned back to the European colonizers. The group stood firm. Give us Edison's head on a platter and permit us to choose his successor, they insisted. Now here's where St. Kitts comes back into the mix. Lennox Linton was around that time, hired by a group of political operatives in St. Kitts to host a morning radio show, cursing the breakaway faction of the Labour Party in St. Kitts, led by Dr. Timothy Harris. As I told you before, this group of colonizers is entrenched in another Caribbean country. Which country, my dear brothers and sisters, do you think that is? Which country do you think this band of European colonizers are entrenched? And of greater importance to us here this afternoon, who do you think ultimately was paying for Lennox Linton to fly up to St. Kitts every week to host their radio program? It was the said group of colonizers. So here in Dominica resided the puppet, and there in St. Kitts resided the master. The puppet met with the master, and the master liked him. He was very courteous and very obedient. So the master sat for a while and hatched a plot. What if I could get this boy to return to Dominica and carry this sort of fight to Skerrit? With our money behind him and our team from England managing every aspect of his campaign, we might just be able to break the back of Labour in Dominica. So, 11:30 one night, Edison James received a call. Edison, Chris here, we need to talk. Chris is the head of the same company you mentioned earlier, which I did not mention. Miraculously, ladies and gentlemen, 1 week later, Edison Shenfield James announced to the country that he would not be running for office again and that he would step down as political leader of the Workers' Party and that he would nominate Lennox Linton to succeed him in Marigot and to succeed him as political leader of the Workers' Party and prime ministerial candidate at the next general election. Can you believe that, ladies and gentlemen? Claudia Sanford, Isidore, and Sparks were livid. They hit the roof even when Edison James first broke the news to the party. Many of them said it was unacceptable that they would resign. They said they would not run under Lennox Linton. And even Earl Williams is ashamed of the state of his party today in Dominica. But alas, ladies and gentlemen, the first tranche of colonizing money arrived from Switzerland. Angry persons were silenced and made happy. And today, Lennox Linton is the political leader of the Workers' Party. What a shame, ladies and gentlemen. What a blotch on the political landscape of Dominica. I do not have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, who is Lennox Linton. You know him better than I do. What I will do, however, is return to the central theme of his address, which is that Dominicans must consider carefully and choose wisely their next option for Prime Minister of Dominica. You are going to the polls in due course to elect a Prime Minister to work and serve the interests of Dominicans, not to work and do the bidding of a group of European colonizers. The job of lackey to Big Brother from Switzerland requires loyalty to Big Brother only. It requires that that company be allowed to rent 2 floors of the financial center in Roosevelt and send documents up to you as Prime Minister every evening for signing. That's why Lennox Linton, who does not have entry requirements for the civil service of Dominica, is today, miraculously, the political leader of the United Workers' Party. A man who has absolutely no history of loving or caring for people. A man who has the personality of a walrus. A man who has never articulated a vision of Dominica beyond getting rid of Roosevelt Skerrit. A man who has never read a government file, who is less qualified than the very person who would have to clean his office, and definitely less certified than a policeman who would have to drive him to work, is today being imposed on the innocent and unsuspecting people of Dominica as Prime Ministerial candidate. This is scandalous, ladies and gentlemen. This is shameful for the Workers' Party to do to Dominicans. I could never understand why Lennox Linton was so obsessed with everybody's CV. Before you tell the man your name, he wants to see your CV. Now we know it is because he doesn't have one of his own. This is a man not qualified to apply for a messenger job in the public service, not eligible to enter state college as a student. This is the man that the United Workers' Party sees as most qualified to lead Dominica in the second decade of the 21st century. At a time when this government is well on its way to reaching its target of having 1 university graduate in every household in Dominica, if the Workers' Party has its way, there will be 1 graduate in every household, but none in the office of the Prime Minister of Dominica. The highest and most powerful job in the country. Can you believe that, ladies and gentlemen? Not only is Lennox Linton not qualified academically for any job, far less that of Prime Minister, the reality is he has no articulated or demonstrated vision for Dominica. No plan whatsoever for taking this country forward. No record of accomplishment, no skill in anything but sitting before a microphone and cursing people cursing women, cursing men, cursing priests, cursing pastors, cursing everybody in Dominica. This is the man now masquerading as a political party leader, simply because a European colonizer has fallen in love with him, believing he will do his bidding, and has agreed to invest $3 million in the campaign. This is an abomination, ladies and gentlemen, and we must be mindful and aware of this. So, comrades and friends, let's say by some form of David Copperfield magic, he wins. Let's say this plot hatched on Levis and perpetrated by a group of individuals whose only interest in Dominica is to sell thousands of its passports. Let's say he wins. My question is, what does that mean for Dominica? What does that mean for you, the people of this country? How will social services be maintained? How will infrastructural development continue? What will happen to the Yes We Care? What will happen to the housing revolution in Dominica? Lennox Linton is not known outside of Dominica as anything other than a hired gun used in the assassination of people's character. I was in St. Lucia 2 weeks ago, and his election to the leadership of the Workers' Party was the joke of the conference. Colleague prime ministers could hardly contain their absolute shock and astonishment. How, they asked, could this errand boy have pulled out such a coup? One leader, whom Lennox Linton knows very well, said to me, "Boy, I never saw Lennox as no politician. Is Edison right in his mind?" Another remarked that in Dominica, the position of Prime Minister had now been reduced to entry-level status. Comrades and friends, this would be all funny if it was not so serious, if it did not have the serious implications for the future of Dominica. I have nothing against the Workers' Party effectively surrendering the government to Labour. What I have very serious difficulty with is a group of European colonizers believing they can effectively buy a sovereign nation, that they can sign a check for a measly US $3 million and walk away with the sovereignty of a supposedly independent nation. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is up to Dominicans hereinafter to decide where this scandalous, fraudulent scheme goes from here. I am not advocating any particular course of action. All I am saying is that it would be a sad, sorry day in Dominica if Dominica was reduced to such in its 35th, 36th, or 37th year of national independence. I will have much to say on this topic in the weeks and months ahead. But for now, I invite citizens and residents of this country to create by themselves and for themselves a mirror image of the type of Dominica they wish to bequeath to future generations. What kind of Dominica do you want for your children? What kind of Dominica do you want for your grandchildren, ladies and gentlemen? Will it be a free, independent, progressive Dominica? Or will it be a passport production factory for a group of European colonizers whose only interest is to make money? That is a decision that each and every one of you will have to make in the months ahead. As for me, comrades and friends, I am focused on the job at hand. The current global economic downturn has slowed our march to first world status. I have a clear vision of where I would like to take Dominica. I desperately would like to speed the pace of development, but we cannot control the environment around us. We have to operate within the framework of the realities we confront. We are living in tough times, and it is not easy. It is not possible to produce at the rate that we would like. Every dollar spent has to be raised. And if you, the taxpayers of this country are not minded to contribute any more than you're currently doing, then you must appreciate that our capacity to deliver will be mirrored by that reality. I will not stand here this evening and tell you about building an international airport at this time. That would be reckless and irresponsible. I leave that sort of rhetoric for persons who do not know or understand the functioning of the Dominican economy. I will not speak at this point in time about creating a national airline. We put money in Liat, and the Workers' Party criticized us by saying it's a waste of money. But now they're coming to you, the people of Dominica, to say they're going to have a national airline. They must tell us where the money is going to come from to buy the planes and to pay the pilots and operations of the airline. But ladies and gentlemen, those are figments of the imaginations of Alfie Martin, Edison James, and the European colonizers. They came 2 weeks ago and had to come up with something substantial, and that was clearly the best they could muster. So convinced are they about that last Friday evening they had a meeting in Lagon, and not a single word was mentioned about these 3 pilot projects. As Prime Minister and Minister of Finance of this country, I went abroad and came back and told the country we would build the roads to the Portsmouth Highway. I told you how it would have been done, how it would have been funded. I told you we would build the road from Canefield to Melville Hall. I told you how it would be funded. I told you we would upgrade Melville Airport. I told you how it would be funded. I told you we would build a 68-room ultra-modern hotel at Cabrit, and I told you how it would be funded. I told you we would build a new Dominica State College, and I told you how it would be funded. I told you we would build a spanking new State House, and I told you how it would be funded. I told you we would construct the Princess Margaret Hospital, and I told you how it will be funded. I told you we shall build apartments in Bath Estate and Emsall, and I told you how it will be funded. And everything, any and everything I have told you this government will do, I have always told you how it will be funded. Lennox Dinton has never read a government file, who has never run for elective office, who has never held a steady job for almost 2 decades, who is not known outside of Dominica as anything but an errand boy for political parties, is elected leader of the Workers' Party, bears forth to the nation in his first speech that he will provide $1 billion, not 1 million, $1 billion in development projects, without uttering a word of where or how he would raise the first cent. And this is the sort of Mickey Mouse, Disneyland, politics and leadership the Workers' Party is seeking to foist on the people of Dominica at this time. But we understand why his scribes had to make mention of an international airport. We must never forget, Edison James and the Workers' Party will forever be haunted by the idea of the international airport for Dominica. Because when Dame Eugenia Charles, of blessed memory, had the opportunity to build an international airport back then, Edison James and the Workers' Party wrote to the US government and told them no. That decision is recorded in Dominica's history, and it has haunted Edison James and the Workers' Party to this day. We must not forget that, ladies and gentlemen. So, comrades and friends, my undertaking to you this evening is to continue to work to withstand the ravages of this global economic recession. My undertaking to you is to continue to create and seek out employment opportunities for young people in particular. I hope to be in a position before the end of this month to announce the creation of at least 500 new jobs for young Dominicans. I will not jump the gun here this afternoon, but I assure you that all the preparatory work has been done. The government of Dominica has done everything in its power to make this happen, and it is now for the board of directors of one of the largest employment companies in America to give the green light for this company to set up shop in Dominica. Comrades and friends, we're having a wonderful conference. I feel energized. I feel motivated. I am inspired by the vibes I am receiving on the ground in Dominica today. We started this journey 3 elections ago, and we have a phenomenal record of output and achievement to show. But our job is far from complete. We have been slowed by the economic downturn, but we are clear in our minds as to what is required to finish the job. I want each and every one of you to ready yourselves for battle. Put on your breastplate of armor and be ready to go into the battlefield and defend Dominica's honor. Be ready to sensitize voters of the importance of electing a prime minister who can do the job. A prime minister who is nobody's puppet. A prime minister for sure who is not a novice. I say to you this evening, let us go forth from this place recommitted to the noble task of keeping the flag of the Dominica Labour Party flying high across the length and breadth of this beautiful country, Dominica. Let us recommit to doing what's right by Dominica. Let us recommit to once again giving Dominica a government it can trust, a government that can get the job done, and of which all Dominicans can be justifiably proud. I say to you this afternoon, I am up and ready for the task. I am saying to you that Skerrit is ready. The question is, are you ready for the battle? Elections are not as near as some believe. We have some more work to do. I am concerned, for example, about the number of young college and graduate students whom the system is not quite helping at this time. We must facilitate their entry into the productive sectors of our economy. The government will shortly be outlining initiatives geared at helping to build and sustain a new and emerging middle tier in this country. Education is important. Education is vital. The United Workers' Party said clearly 2 weeks ago that education is a waste of time. That you do not need to be educated to thrive and succeed. That's what the Workers' Party is saying. We in the Labour Party sees these things differently. We have educated our young people, and in the remaining months of this term and the next, we will work hard at integrating them into the social and economic life of Dominica. So, comrades and friends, the mission at hand is clear. We have a country to build and a people to mold. We have also to keep European colonizers at bay. I say to you this afternoon, go forth from here, hearkening the clarion call to political arms. Dominica needs labor now more than ever. I thank you all for coming out today. I thank you all for coming out today. And I am sure you are here this afternoon to let the Workers' Party know and to let the entire country know that labor is here to stay in Dominica. And ladies and gentlemen, you've known me for some time. And when it comes to political battle, Skerrit will take nobody's blows, ladies and gentlemen. So I am in top shape, as you can see. I'm in top shape. I am in excellent health, ladies and gentlemen. I am ready to go out in full battle to secure a better way of life for children and for Dominicans as a whole. I am ready to go into battle to ensure the good name of Dominica remains high and in the mouths of every single country outside of Dominica. And I am ready for the battle. And Reggie and Ambush Judge and comrades, what I see here today, this is just a delegates conference. This is not a rally. This is just a delegates conference. Wait when the campaign starts, and then we'll see, ladies and gentlemen. Because I am not prepared to give up one seat to the Workers' Party in the next general election. But as always, I will do what I have to do. The rest is in your hands. The rest is in your hands as supporters of the Dominican Labour Party. Let us go back home and spread the word of Labour. And let them know that the leader of the Dominican Labour Party has said that he is ready for battle. He is ready for battle. I pray God's blessings on you and your families. I pray God's blessings on this great country. And I thank you always for your prayers. All of you who continue to pray for me. Had it not been for your support and prayers, I would not be standing here today. Because you know the forces of evil are strong against Roosevelt Skerrit. But we are protected by prayers and our guiding angels, ladies and gentlemen, and by the warriors of labor. And as we end this speech, the good Lord is showering us His blessings. The good Lord is showering us with light showers. And He is reminding us and saying to us that He is on our side. The good Lord is on the Labour Party side and on the God-fearing people of Dominica. So I thank you, my dear brothers and sisters. And when you hear the attacks, I know many of you get concerned about Skerrit. But rest assured, I am doing very, very fine. And they shall not distract me from the work that we have. There are still many of you who we have made promises to that we have not fulfilled. And we must do our best to fulfill the promises which we made for you, to you the people of Dominica, and to you here in Pondishire. So God bless you, my friends. Hold firm, hold strong, bind your hands together and recommit yourself to the battle of securing a better way of life for all Dominicans and to protect the investment of the Dominican Labour Party in this country. Thank you very much. I am so proud to be your leader. I am so proud to be your leader, ladies and gentlemen. And I shall never, never abandon you. I am here in Dominica to stay. I am not going anywhere. I shall be here with you in good times and in bad times, ladies and gentlemen. And nobody will push Skerrit out of Dominica. I will be here with you. I'll be here with you for a very, very, very long time. Thank you very much. Forward ever, backward never. Forward ever, backward never. Labour! 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 Let's hold strong, ladies and gentlemen. Let's hold strong. Labour is there to stay. And Labour shall continue to lead Dominica for a very long time. I thank you, I thank you, I thank you. God bless you, God bless you, God bless your families. Thank you very much.